Hey folks, Jimmy here, aka Palette of the Dead. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to yet another Warhammer painting video. Now, as per usual with all these videos, if you like them, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and of course, please drop me a comment down below. I love reading your comments, I love getting back to you guys, and it goes a massive way to helping out the channel too. Now, with this video, I want to carry on showing off how I'll go about painting my new homebrew Stormcast Eternals Stormhost, the Celestial Hunters, an offshoot of the Celestial Vindicators Stormhost, so there are some similarities in their colour scheme there, and with this one no different. So obviously I've shown off the Knight Arcanum before. This one is all about our Lord Imperatant, because he's a pretty cool guy, and yeah, I enjoy painting this colour scheme. It's a really nice one, and I hope you guys enjoy it too. Now, without further ado, and before I bore you all to death, shall we just crack on with it? So obviously I've started off with Abaddon Black as the base coat, and I am painting over good old Thousand Suns blue over the bulk of the armour, but not every piece of it, and it gives you a nice teal kind of turquoisey blue colour. With that colour laid down and dry, it's time to apply some shade, and it's Colia green shade for this. This works very nicely in them recesses, so it does very nice over that kind of tealy turquoisey colour. With that shade dried now, it is time to layer over Ahriman Blue, because another tealy turquoisey kind of colour, and this is over all the flat areas of that armour, and it will get highlighted over with Temple Guard Blue, which isn't shown in this video in all honesty. And then it's time for the other armour segments, which I'm using Lead Belcher as the base coat on here. This actually does really nicely. It breaks up that blue colour, which I think makes it look a little bit more unique, a little bit different as well at the same time. And while that was drying, it's time to start using our Retributor armour over the helm of our good old Lord Imperatant, so I chose to go for the helmeted option and not the non-helmeted option. You also tend to do things like the gold over things like the haft of the hammer, the top of the staff and such like as well, and a few other gold little segments, so it's worth doing them all at the same time, ready for a wash. And then, because he's got that kind of Griffhound cloak, it's time to do a bit with that. So I used Mournfang Brown on here. So you will see some colours turn up twice in this video as well, by the way. But yeah, Mournfang Brown, I wanted to go for a brown colour for them brown feathers, just because I felt it looked a little bit more naturalistic. And then it's time to apply our second shade, which is Nuln Oil. This is going over all the metallic areas and over all that Mournfang Brown as well. This gives it a nice dark colour. It does darken it down. It can be a little bit glossy at times, so over kind of matte kind of finishes it doesn't do very well sometimes, but yeah, it's a very handy shade to have. And because it had kind of gone a little bit glossy over the back of the Griffhound kind of cloak, it's time to use more Mournfang Brown over it to bring it back over the flat areas. However, obviously not going into any recesses. This makes it helps it make stand out, should I say. And then it's time to add some detail to it, so I'm using Baneblade Brown over some of the larger feather areas, as in a bit of a stippling motion. This gives it a little bit of texture as well, and then I dry brushed over certain other areas as well. And then for the main handle over things like the red leather straps, obviously I'm using corn red because it's a very nice colour and red leather does look very, very nice. And then it's time to paint that nice detail section on the inside of the cloak, and I used Retributor armour back on this as well. Now the main reason I hadn't done this before is because I had to go back over it with that bad and black a couple of times to kind of bring it back to neutrality after making a few little errors. And with that done, it's time to start painting the highlighted areas of that cloak. So using Corvus Black for this part, just going over them edges and a few other bits, and it gives you kind of a very dark black grey kind of colour over the top of it, which stands out quite nicely in some lights as well. Makes it look really, really good. And then to give some edge highlighting to it as well, so something slightly brighter, some Mechanica Standard Grey over the very top in very, very thin sections, just trying to kind of make it pop a little tiny bit more. And then using corn red, I'm going back over things like the tassels, because in all honesty I was going to paint them yellow and I changed my mind last minute. So I was going to use Wayland Sunset to begin with, and I just didn't think it was going to look right, so I decided to go back over with corn red instead. And then painting up that kind of a scroll-like tassel, I'm using Xandri Dust as a base colour for it. This sits very, very nicely into recesses. It's kind of dark in a lot of lights as well, so it does work very, very nicely, especially when utilised with a colour over the top of it, and yeah, does exactly what you need it to do. And talking of colour over the top, Wraithbone, good old Wraithbone does wonders for this, brings it back to an ivory colour, just avoiding all of those recessed areas, and it sits absolutely brilliantly in my opinion. I think it works very, very nicely and does exactly what you need it to do. Now the other colours, as you can see, I used Wayland Sunset on the beak of our kind of Griffhound cloak. With this I did utilise one of the Yanden Yellow contrast paint over the top of it, gives it a bit of an orangey colour and darkens up certain areas and leaves certain areas lighter, which works very, very nicely. For the highlighted kind of edge highlight areas of things like the straps for tassels and stuff like that, I used Wazdak Red as well, because it gives it a nice bright red colour to pop with and works wonders. Other than that, if you ever want to do extra bits to it, you can obviously add more to it. So I use Stormhost Silver over the top of the kind of the lead belcher areas to kind of give it a nice highlight. If you want to do any highlighting over gold, Rune Lord Brass does work very, very nicely, and so does Stormhost Silver as well in very small quantities, so definitely worth a shot. But otherwise, I genuinely like this mini. I think it looks pretty cool. I've enjoyed painting it, and it's going to fit in very, very nicely with my new Stormhost. So happy days. Right, that's it from me. You will probably see a few more of these painting videos coming up soon, but for now, thank you very, very much for watching, and I will see you sometime soon. Bye bye now.